Okay, we'll go ahead and get started, Victoria. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our summer speaker series. I am so happy that so many of you are able to join us. It looks like we have a really great turnout on the webinar side of things. We have a Q&A that we'll be doing at the end of the presentation, and so if you're wanting to put some questions in there as they come up, I'll moderate those at the end. I do have a couple updates from the chamber. We have a ton going on. It feels like we're on our way into fall, but still with lots of action happening for the summer. One of the big things that's happening this week is that Laurie Boysa, our director of Visit Sitka, is having her final day on Friday, and we invite everyone to come stop by from 3:30 to 5 here at the Sitka Chamber and Visit Sitka offices, and wish her farewell. We'll have some snacks and refreshments, and she'll be around Sitka. You might see her at the grocery store for a couple weeks, but she'll be transitioning over to the city of Ketchikan as their tourism manager. And so we wish her the best. It's been wonderful having her here the past 4 years, and I think she's just been such a great leader for the program, and we've had just quite the ride. She started in 2019, and then we went right into the COVID and all of the different programs, and we ran huge grants in that time as well, and then transitioning us into all of this tourism, cruise tourism, and the growth of that. And so we're going to hear more about that in just a few minutes, but please join us Friday in 2 days from 3:30 to 5 here at the office. Southeast Conference is big and happening in 2 weeks. We have about 300 economic development and community leaders that will be coming into Sitka from all over Southeast Alaska. It's a really cool conference to really get an idea of what everyone's doing and what everyone's planning in all of the different economic sectors in our region. And there is over 70 speakers on the docket, so it's really incredible. I'm excited. We're hosting a community reception the first evening, and we have a lot of details kind of pulling together. It is going to be a really fun week, and so you'll see all kinds of Southeasterners around in the community, and so be sure to welcome them as you see them. There is still an opportunity if you want to attend or send staff to attend. Like I said, it's just such a cool time to really engage and find out what everyone's doing in our region and how you can get dialed in with that. The Sitka's Emerging Leaders program is just doing amazing things. They just had a group hike that was led by Sitka Trail Works on the 24th of August, and had a really great conversation with the organization's leader to talk about nonprofit leadership. Now, on September 14th, so next Thursday evening from 5 to 7, we will have Jonathan Christ-Tompkins. He's coming to town. He's kind of between here and his other locations, DC and California. And he's coming to town and going to talk about his career, how he went into politics, and just what that looked like as a young leader. He was our House of Representative for many years, and so really looking forward to that time. We have some networking, and then we get together, we listen to him share his story, and then we'll have roundtable discussions. The conversations have been really valuable, I think, for the emerging leaders. If you have someone in your office, or if you are in that 21 to 40 age bracket, we really encourage you to come. There's no charge. We'll have some snacks, and you can get a beverage, and really just, it's all about creating community in that group and then bringing these conversations and these topics out. Really looking forward to that career development topic. Next week is our speaker series, which is the Municipal Candidate Forum. So we have 4 running for 3 seats on the Assembly, the City and Borough of Sitka Assembly. We will be at the Centennial. This has always been one of my dreams, and because we're early in the month, we get to do it. Is we're going to put all the candidates into those chairs in the Assembly room at the Centennial, and you can bring your own lunch. We won't be providing any lunch this time, but pack a lunch and come on down. We'll be there from 12 to 1:30, and that is on the 13th, which is Wednesday, and we will be, asking candidates questions, really looking at, the Chamber's focus with workforce, housing, training, and just really looking at, where the economy is going and what we're doing and how these candidates may support our business community moving forward. So I encourage you to join us for that. We also have our kind of fall speaker series lined out with dates. We'll be meeting in person and have topics around housing, which is really important, and I think it's a workforce issue, it's an employer issue, and so we really want to kind of dial in where Sitka's housing is, where our landowners are, what are the plans that are in place, and what are some solutions to solving some of the challenges that we're facing, and kind of getting a handle on what we could be doing to improve this in the future. That's an 8-week series, and will be housing is going to be our fall, so we're really excited about that. Today we have our speaker is Chris McGraw, and Chris is the owner of the Sitka Sound Cruise Terminal, and he operates the Sitka Cruise Dock. He is a former board member and past president of the Chamber, supporting us through that whole transition of bringing on Visit Sitka, and really just someone I really appreciate having in my professional circle. So we're bringing him today. He's going to give us an update, and like I said, for everyone that's online, feel free to put questions in the Q&A, and we'll work through those as we can towards the end. So Chris, do you want to try to get on and share your presentation?
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks for the opportunity to be a speaker today. Let me share my screen here.
Yeah, thanks in the middle of all this busyness of making time for us as well.
Slow day.
Oh yeah. Only one. Looks like we don't have your camera on yet either. There we are. All right, turning it over to you.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for attending today. I'm going to give a presentation on kind of navigating our growth here in Sitka and at the cruise terminal for 2023, and a look beyond this year. So kind of what I'm going to go over is just general introduction. I'm going to do a recap of the 2023 cruise season, highlight kind of successes that we had in 2023, and also the challenges that we faced in 2023. I'll look ahead to the numbers that we're going to expect for 2024, and then kind of what our strategies are from a cruise terminal perspective for the future, and then I can follow up at the end with a Q&A. If you have questions while I'm going through anything, just feel free to type those in, and then Rachel will get to them at the end. So a general introduction for anybody that might not know me or know my experience. Started work on permitting for the Sitka Sound Cruise Terminal back in about 2009. Completed construction in 2012. And in that season we had one ship. It was the Celebrity Century. It's a photo of it right there. It was a beautiful September day. At that point, the facility was primarily a boatyard. Operated servicing commercial fishing vessels and private vessels, pleasure vessels, and then built the cruise ship dock and basically just bussed everybody to town and didn't have anything on site at that point. By 2019, we had grown to 190,000 passengers, with our primary customers being Holland America, 2 large ships a week, and then numerous small ships as well. In 2021, during COVID, we expanded the facility by extending our dock to accommodate 2 of the Neo-Panamax ships, and those are the largest ships that visit Alaska, like the Norwegian Bliss or the Royal Caribbean Ovation of the Seas. In addition, at that time, we expanded our uplands facilities to include additional staging for our shuttle operation, tour bus departures, and then added some retail and food and beverage facilities as well to accommodate the increased passenger flow. Looking at this season, total number of ships arrived. We had anticipated to have 203 ships here at the facility. That's assuming we don't have any cancellations due to weather or anything else from here on out. And total for Sitka looks like it's going to be about 271. That'll include ships at the dock and then ships that tender into the city facilities in downtown. From a passenger count, going to look at about 514,000 at the dock, and that's based on the lower berth capacity of the ships, a total of about 560 for Sitka. This is a little bit higher than initial projections. The Norwegian Spirit made cancellations to Valdez early in the season and called Sitka instead, and we picked up about another 9,000 guests from that change in itinerary. For the 2023 season, some of the successes that we've noticed here at the cruise terminal and in general, seen a big influx in small business generation. This includes local artists, food vendors, small tour operators, which is, in my opinion, been much needed with the growth of the industry. One of the issues that we've heard recently is the lack of things to do in Sitka. And that stems from the fact that we had fairly low cruise numbers for a long period of time, and we didn't have the numbers to support increase in business. So with this increase in business, we've seen a number of people starting up, single boat whale watching tours, small retail operations, and things of that nature. In addition, in 2023, my conversations with some of our cruise partners, passenger satisfaction ratings have increased from 2022 to 2023. I attribute some of this to we've invested additional in our shuttle operations, which have improved wait times for passengers. In addition, we've made changes at the cruise terminal to help improve passenger flow. And I think, in general, we have more things to do in Sitka. Like I said, more tour operators, and this has given an overall better experience to the passengers. Other successes: job creation, growth in the industry, where we have consistent ships 5 and 6 days a week has allowed development from businesses and to hire more employees, which includes year-round positions, where when we had only 2 or 3 large ships a week, a lot of the businesses couldn't invest to provide the products and to hire the employees to justify year-round positions. Within our organization, we have from the dock facility and our tour operations, we've added 12 full-time year-round positions just in the last year, and I'm sure that ripples through the other various businesses that are involved in the industry. One other thing that I've noticed this year is what we're paying for seasonal positions. The wages have increased considerably, and that's just based on demand for employees. So that's, for people that are looking for seasonal work, they're getting a much higher wage than historically speaking. And then the last item is revenue injection, and this is both through sales tax revenues to the City and Borough of Sitka. Each cruise ship visit brings in millions of dollars in tour sales, retail, food and beverage, and all of this gets translated into revenue and sales tax. And then benefits to the non-tourism related businesses from the increase in overall economic activity. So as with the seasonal employees that come in, the activity from freight, from retailers shipping in products to grocery stores, fuel companies, the increased economic activity from the cruise ship tourism just doesn't help just the tourism businesses. It helps businesses that provide services to all those businesses as well. And I think that's a big plus that was realized in 2023. In addition to successes, definitely had some challenges with the increased number. One item that we really noticed here this year was how much the ship arrival and departure times affect the overall passenger flow in our shuttle operations. For instance, if you have a large ship of 4,000 guests and it arrives after 9 a.m., many of those guests have already, had breakfast, are, taking their showers, and are ready to go. So when that ship arrives, the flow of passengers off is much higher than if it's a 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. arrival. And that just puts increased demand on our shuttle operation. It drops off, the influx of passengers into downtown Sitka is at a much higher rate. And then the other aspect is that when we have large ships arriving and departing at the same time, we had a Sunday a few weeks ago where we had a large Royal Caribbean ship and a large Princess ship. They both arrived at 10 a.m. and they both departed at around 5. And the scheduling of roughly 7,000 people all arriving at once and departing at once put strain on our transportation system, and I think just the flow and congestion of traffic, pedestrians throughout the town. Other challenge, as with most employers, I think, was in finding employees. Both CDL and non-CDL driver employees. We had a tough time, did a lot of recruiting over the winter. We were able to fill all the positions, but it wasn't an easy task. With our shuttle operation, we utilize a lot of CDL drivers, and they're in high demand throughout the state. One thing that makes this troublesome is that there's no local option for testing for CDL drivers. So even if you have, say somebody local that wants to work part-time, which we would love to hire, it's very difficult for them to go get a CDL with a passenger endorsement to drive a bus. And then the last item that we had challenges in 2023 was kind of pedestrian traffic congestion. And in general, Centennial Hall, as most of you probably notice, on a busy day, is a very busy place. So we operate our shuttle drop-off and pickup location there, and there's also a number of independent tour operators. And with all of the bus traffic and van traffic and pedestrians, it becomes a very busy place. And it wasn't designed for that kind of volume of passenger queuing and activity. Kind of give you an example, on a busy day on a return, we'll move roughly 2,000 people an hour. So if you have even a half-hour wait in a shuttle line, that's 1,000 people waiting in line, which takes up a significant amount of real estate to try to queue. And given kind of the shape and the general layout of that area, it's difficult to organize and keep it non-congested and able for people and vehicles to move through in an efficient manner. The other aspect that we noticed this year was local venue capacity issues, and primarily, some of the popular ones like Fortress of the Bear, Raptor Center, Science Center, those all experienced capacity issues on busy days. And I think that's one of the big challenges that was seen in 2023. Looking ahead to 2024 and beyond, expected passenger numbers for next season, the schedule is out, and it's going to be very, very similar to this season. The latest schedule I looked at had roughly 567,000 passengers, lower berth capacity total for Sitka. And from a ship perspective, there's going to be fewer calls from the Princess ships, but those will be replaced with additional calls from some of the Royal Caribbean and Celebrity ships. So all in all, it's going to be really close to numbers for this year, and similar as far as days of the week go. Your Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays tend to be the busier days, and then Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays are not as busy, similar to this season. As for strategies for the future, one of my primary goals is to distribute passengers throughout Sitka and the surrounding area better, and reduce the demand on our shuttle to downtown. The shuttle is one of our largest cost centers here. The dock facility. Plus, it just the increased traffic and the bus traffic, it's a logistic headache sometimes with some of the large ships. So over the next 5 years, I'd like to reduce that by 50%. And the way that can be done is, first of all, working with the cruise lines on schedules to stagger the arrival times and departure times of the ship. As I mentioned earlier, that's one of the things we noticed this year with the timings of the arrivals, how that impacted the flow of the passengers coming off and then coming back to the ship. For instance, we had a Ovation of the Seas yesterday, and it had an 8 a.m. arrival, and we had no queue all morning here at the cruise terminal. Yet, when they come in at 10 a.m., we'll have 1,500 people in line with a 15 to 20 minute wait to get on the shuttle. So those arrival times significantly affect the level of bus traffic and shuttle traffic that we have to have on the roads. So my goal is to work with the cruise lines on future years to help alleviate that demand on the shuttle by spreading out those arrival times and working with the itineraries. The next item is infrastructure development here at the cruise terminal. So we're currently working on design for a 260-seat theater that'll be utilized for live performances and informational immersive video presentations. We're looking to work with some of the local venues to provide content and experiences. And then the goal with this will be to help reduce that demand on the shuttle further by, if a ship comes in, you have 260 people that have tickets to a first showing that aren't going to necessarily want to go get on the very first shuttle to town. So it helps distribute people throughout the community better. And then in addition to the theater, we're designing about additional 6,000 square feet additional retail and food and beverage space to be leased out to local vendors. And then the last item, which I think will be one of the largest beneficiaries of providing this distribution, is to increase tour and excursion opportunities to help distribute guests throughout Sitka area via the water. So the goal here is to develop tour products that operate by boat so that we don't add any additional traffic onto the roads. And these need to be large-scale tour opportunities to where you can take a couple hundred passengers at a time. To kind of give, for instance, on a busy day here with one of the large Royal Caribbean ships, you'll have up to 1,500 passengers on tour, and virtually every tour is sold. Communities such as Juneau, Skagway, Ketchikan, that number is double. So the problem is that we just don't have tours to sell in Sitka, and by developing new tour product and increasing those opportunities, it will help get those people out on boats and other excursions and not necessarily on a shuttle to get dropped off in downtown, which will reduce that congestion. So I'm going to go back. One thing I missed back here was the high passenger satisfaction ratings. So some of the areas where the cruise lines are seeing kind of still some low ratings from Sitka is in tours and excursions availability. And that kind of goes back to the point that I just mentioned about how Sitka, and it's due to the fact that we've had fairly low visitation over the past number of decades and seen this significant increase over the past couple of years, the tour programs haven't kept up with that increase. And by increasing tour opportunities and investment in tours, we can get those opportunities for guests to take tours up and hopefully improve that score and make Sitka a more desirable place to visit. So I know that was kind of quick and probably a lot of information, but hopefully I'll get some questions and can provide some additional information if anybody has anything.
Sure, thanks, Chris. Pretty exciting times, and also just a lot to be planning for in the future. And I do think one of the things that the Chamber's been really kind of zeroed in on across the board really post-pandemic is our workforce. And so workforce development, having roundtables with industry, and honestly hearing that, you know, there's a challenge in all the industries that we have here in Sitka. One of the questions that came up on the Q&A, which you can add to if you're online, we have lots of folks online, so thanks for everyone for joining us, is can you give some examples of those increased year-round positions? So what is the visitor industry related year-round positions that have been created?
Sure. So I've added a full-time shuttle operations manager. I have a full-time mechanic that works on buses. Our tour operations have 3 full-time positions, and those include a general manager, a port captain, and then a facilities manager. I've got a full-time facilities manager at the port facility that I've added. I've added a full-time human resource position. So those are the types of positions. They're administrative positions that people are needed to oversee and manage the tourism-related businesses.
Yeah, well, and I think that kind of speaks to the point that things don't necessarily slow down just because we aren't having visitors in our front door. We see that our programs and what we're doing at Visit Sitka changes. We're working on planning for the next season. We're doing collateral updates, and all of that work really does continue into the winter, and we wouldn't be able to do it if we just closed the office and opened back up in April. So that's a great point. I think the other kind of area, just to speak to year-round positions, is that we saw when we didn't have those high numbers and summer visitors during 20 and 21 that retail businesses and different places weren't able to stay open in the winter, and we saw reduced hours and those things. And I think it really comes back to that. If there's revenue that's collected in those summer months, it carries those positions forward, and the funding and the money to be able to keep our downtown open year round. And I know that's a really important part of the nature of the community, but we have to get that revenue in so that then we're open for those convention visitors, but then for our locals, like the local businesses. And so that's definitely another year-round position that maybe a high schooler student may not have that opportunity if that revenue didn't come in to keep them on all winter. The other kind of thing that you brought up were administrative positions, and that really is an area that Sitka's really, I think, needing training on, needing opportunities for that. And so we've been working with the university to look at how can we upskill and get some more training opportunities, whether they're short term or really specifically though bringing more skills in that area of management and administrative leadership, HR, accounting, those types of things. Like, can we get a QuickBooks training for everyone so that we can fill these positions with local Sitkans that are trained. So there is a question from our city administrator. Something I hear in my office from citizens is often that this year was too much. Even understanding the economic benefits, we've communicated to the cruise industry that Sitka needs to remain what it is that makes it so special to visit. What is the cruise industry's view on the level of Sitka resources, and how do we keep from overcommitting Sitka's resources?
I obviously can't speak for the cruise lines themselves, so I'll give you my feeling on this, and it's that I don't know what the definition of resources is, but from what I would view that is the transportation that we have, the venues, the things for people to do, and as I mentioned in my talk, those items all need to be increased. So the resources need to be increased from a shuttle perspective. We need to increase the shuttle operation or improve the shuttle operation to meet the demand. Tour operations, we need to increase the tour availability so that as they bring more people, then there's stuff for those people to do. So I guess that's my view on that. It's a matter of not coming up with a number of, yes, Sitka can accommodate 500,000 people. It's how does Sitka best accommodate, and what can we do to make that number, that 500,000 visitors or 560,000 visitors, sustainable, and where it retains that quality of life for the locals, yet still allows us to benefit from that economic engine that those passengers bring and the money that they spend.
Yeah, I think sustainability of industry really kind of is the thing that helps with private investment. So if a business operator that is looking at, say, growing an attraction or purchasing another bus or doing another attraction or excursion, to know that they're going to have demand into the future and that's a wise investment, I think we need to have stability in what we're going to be seeing as best we can. And so, that is important. If we were, if we crystal balled and saw that there wouldn't be this many visitors, then investment may not happen. And I think that also as like planning long term, looking at our at the infrastructure and what we're doing, I think the Lincoln Street project is one of those areas that could really help getting that project underway now that we've seen what traffic flows look like and what pedestrian traffic is looking like. How can we get that project to kind of help ease that, where maybe we wouldn't have to have street closures, which I think there's 5 more. Is that right? That there's 5 more in the month of September. So we kind of saw a big run of big days, and now we'll have our a quieter September than we did see in August. August was a big month for us. So I think you've touched on this already, but looking at your plans for solutions for passenger dispersal, what can we expect to see in 2024 specifically?
From my company perspective, as I mentioned, we're building a 260-seat theater and then adding additional on-site retail food and beverage space that will retain people at the cruise terminal and distribute that flow of passengers getting off ships and automatically getting on a bus and getting into town. So it provides more opportunity for people to do things here at the cruise terminal and can go back and forth. Secondly, our tour company, we have 2 new boats on order that will arrive prior to the season start. They're 49 passenger boats, a couple departures a day. That'll be accommodate 300 to 400 additional guests per day in tours. Then we have plans, further years down the line to add additional boats. Those boats have been on order for 2 years, so it's not something that you can just snap your fingers and adjust as the numbers go up. There's the capital investment and then the timing for all of these projects, and to react to this growth is something we've been working on kind of since the pandemic. Continue to do that. As I mentioned, kind of over the next 5 years, our goal is to significantly increase the tour opportunities, not just on the road system, but try to get them off the road system to disperse those guests.
So as far as new retail and food opportunities, do you already have those vendors selected? If someone was interested in, should they contact you?
Yeah, no, feel free to reach out. So
okay, to pitch their ideas and see if they can get in on that action. Yep. Do you want to talk a little bit? I know this comes up as like if people stay out at the cruise terminal and don't come into town because they've had their food or done a tour that departed from the cruise terminal, how does that affect the tax revenues? And can you just talk kind of about how tax revenues are collected with those businesses that are out there?
Yeah, all the spaces we have, they're all leased to other individual businesses, and they all collect sales tax revenues based on their sales. And then the rent that those businesses pay, I pay sales. I collect sales tax from those businesses and pay that on the rents that I collect. So all of those purchases are taxed.
So for the visit, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I guess I'll touch on the tour perspective as well. So any of the tours that are sold on board, the ships themselves don't pay the sales tax, but us as a tour vendor, so we actually sell the tour to the ship. The ship marks it up. We pay a sales tax on the price that we're selling it to the ship for. So tours and excursions, those all get taxed as well.
Yeah. So looking at our housing topic, how are you dealing with housing for your out-of-town employees? And do you have any ideas that Sitka as we try to hire people from out of town for the season?
So from our business perspective, we built our own housing.
Yeah.
As everybody knows, housing is in short supply in Sitka, and trying to find seasonal housing is next to impossible. And to solve that solution, we built a unit last winter with 24 beds, and utilized that for the staff that we hired. We have some plans to renovate some additional space this winter into some more housing, and I see new structures is really the solution going forward to try to accommodate the seasonal housing. I think it's getting to a point where it'd be an opportunity for somebody that wants to invest in kind of more of a dorm style structure. They could probably rent it out and make a return on their investment just for seasonal housing.
Yeah. Kind of getting a little creative there, rather than just relying on what exists, because we've got to do something a little different.
You do, and it's become a cost of doing business. Is you have to figure on how you're going to get that housing, and for instance, our bus drivers, we provide free housing for them as part of their employment, which is another perk for us trying to recruit them.
So, talking about your new tour operation, I know you did dip into this, that there's a question about the adventure park and so initially there was this plan. How has that kind of changed since your initial pitch to the assembly when you did the lease?
So Sciatica Inc. is the one that has the lease with the city. Adventure Sitka is no longer involved with that, so I don't know an update on where Sciatica's at with that development. The 260-seat theater is separate. That will be located at the cruise terminal.
Oh, okay.
So that's different.
Okay, so we'll have to get an update from Sciatica on what's happening. Okay. So that's kind of cool that the theater's at the terminal. That's new information that I didn't quite put together. So.
It'll be at the terminal.
Okay. Let's see. Regarding seasonal workers, we'll pop back over to that. I guess looking at what about, so you talked about their housing, but what about other things as far as pay, benefits, and then secondly, well, it's a different question. So I guess looking at, are these employees, they're coming in for the season, what does their work look like, and are they full-time during the season, more than full-time?
So in general, I mean, the bulk of our employees are the shuttle drivers, and I guess I just give my basics is, we guarantee a 40-hour work week. Most weeks are over that. There's a few weeks where they weren't, but pay is $32 an hour, free housing, and a 5% bonus at the end of the season if you stay the season. So pretty straightforward. They start April 15th. Contract is through basically October 4th, the last ship, and they've come from all over the country. And we have 2 local drivers that live locally, but other than that, everybody else has come in from elsewhere. And I think if we had opportunities locally to where people could get CDLs, we might find where we could get more local drivers, because in a lot of instances we could use additional drivers 1 or 2 days a week, where if somebody's looking for a part-time job to make some extra money, they could drive 1 or 2 days a week. But now having to go out of town and spend who knows how long to get a CDL, it makes it very difficult for somebody to get a part-time job, a CDL driver.
Well, it's hard to even get a driver's license in Sitka. You can't even make an appointment today if you try to get a driver's license test. So our DMVs definitely has seen some shrinkage there with what they're offering. But I made a note of it to follow up, see what could happen. Even if it was just bringing in DMV testing for CDL a couple times in the startup months. So okay, there's a couple questions about capacity. One of them is, do we have to have 500,000 visitors? Another one is, do you see a ceiling or limit to the cruise capacity with current infrastructure limitations? Yeah, kind of a couple questions there around that.
So the Sitka's capacity from an overall perspective is dictated by the infrastructure. You're not going to see significant numbers of large ships come in and tender. It's logistically not feasible. So therefore, we have 2 dock berths. Currently, we have 2 ships, I'd say on average 5 days a week, and those are primarily Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, occasionally some Fridays. You see Fridays and Saturdays are open, and that's primarily dictated by the ship's itineraries. They like to leave Seattle or Vancouver on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, which puts them in Alaska midweek. We could pick up some additional ships on those Fridays and Saturdays if a ship decided to leave Seattle or Vancouver midweek, but probably not likely. So yeah, our overall growth, I don't see being able to, it's not going to double. We just do not have the infrastructure to allow that. Could you see some incremental increase over the next number of years? Yeah, primarily through companies changing out ships, possibly larger ships. But I don't think you're going to see, a bunch of additional ships calling at Sitka, because there's just not the space that's left. If that makes sense. And for the question is, do we have to have 500K? It's the way I see it, it's dictated by the market and the available infrastructure. If there's demand to come to Sitka and the infrastructure is available for a space, as a private business owner, and if I can accommodate them with respects to my resources and my shuttle operation, I'm going to book that ship. Obviously, we have a significant investment we've made here over the last 10 years, and the point of a for-profit business is to get a return on that investment. So we do that through customers. Our customers are the cruise ships.
So a little bit of a gear shift. Can you give us an update on the tourism task force and the committee, and I guess they're asking about, do the committee members share the same view about opportunities? How's that going, I guess? And there's a meeting tonight, right?
Yeah, we've really just kind of been working on getting the various tasks that we've been outlined. We've been broken up into various subgroups, and each subgroup's been working on those. We have a meeting tonight where we're going to kind of touch on, each group's going to report back. I know that the tourism best management practices portion is coming along, and there's a draft of that. And it's, given the summer season, there hasn't been a whole lot of opportunity for work to be done. Everybody's been busy, but we're kind of getting the groundwork laid, and I think things will pick up this fall once the season's over, and our meeting schedule will get a little more frequent.
Right, and then is it the plan to have more work sessions or meetings, and how can the community kind of stay involved in that?
I think I'd have to look at the latest schedule, but I think shortly after the season's over, there's going to be a kind of a community engagement portion for each of the various topics that the assembly outlined that they wanted the task force to deal with.
Cool, good. Yeah, it's definitely like get through the season and then get to work on some of those topics. So that's great. And that meeting I think is happening at Centennial tonight at 5. If anyone wants to come and hear the latest updates. We got some kudos for you for thanks for the great presentation and also taking the risk of creating a cruise ship dock. Like, okay. A question, and I think relevant if we've got folks thinking about workforce housing, is the free housing or the housing that's included or provided, does that get taxed like as an employee benefit, or how does that work? How does that work?
It's not taxed as an employee benefit. We pay property taxes on it, but there's no rent charge, so there's no income.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
From, our perspective, that we would.
Well, and I know some folks handle that differently. Like, there's bunkhouse charges or things in the seafood industry. So then you might get some benefit and some, but then also have to pay some for your housing. So.
Yeah, bars they stay there, and there's no deductor or anything from the payroll.
Okay. And let's see, I think I might have hit all the questions. I apologize if I missed anybody's. Let's see. I'll run back through it once more. Yeah, looks like I've got your questions covered. Any other wrap-up things you might want to share before we kind of end our conversation?
Nope. I think I covered everything that I had.
Great. Well, we appreciate you and appreciate the work you're doing out there. We'll see you tonight at the meeting. And I guess just reminders for everyone that's online. We've got our farewell to Laurie Boysa happening on Friday, this Friday from 3:30 to 5. And if you're interested in looking at that position, we have the position listed on the Chamber's website, as well as linked in our latest newsletter. So definitely, and on our Facebook page. So there it is, and reach out to me if you want to know more about it. We're really looking for someone that can, come in with some experience and also be able to really lead and guide as our industry develops, and that we look at the management of the tourism development that's been happening. So reach out to me and share with your people if you know someone that might be a good fit for that. We are actually recruiting now, but the position will start in January, and the position will be, that will give that person time to give their leave, have their holiday, and then come back and join us in the beginning of 2024 to get those projects going. A couple things since I've got you, we're doing our sales for our visitor guide. The visitor guide ad listings and updates are due on October 11th. This gets you into the 24-25 printed guide. If there's any changes, phone numbers and websites and all the things that can be updated, we need those updates from everyone. Really excited about the direction the visitor guide is going this year with our editorial and photography, and but the Chase and Victoria on the team are here and available to work through your memberships and all of that. So I will leave you then. Thank you very much, Chris, for your time, and we look forward to another update from you in a few months. Maybe we can get you preseason to get some more projections as how we're looking as we ramp up. But thank you, and everyone have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.